Hi, and welcome to the first inaugural episode of Southeast of Normal. We've got the founder from Meed, Phil, who's based in Hong Kong. He's a consumer-first real retail loyalty app where you literally have one QR scan live in your Apple and Google Wallet in minutes. No app and no log. So rather than stealing his thunder, let me introduce you to Phil, and he can tell you a little bit more about Mead and how he came up with this great idea.
Hey there, good morning, Osman. And I didn't realize this was your inaugural show, so thank you. Cheers with the coffee. So Mead came about from the frustration of me as a normal consumer who goes to shops, buys stuff, realizes that there's often chances to get rewarded if you buy a bit more or if you buy a bit more often, but found the whole process frustrating because the strange thing about loyalty as it works today, and I think almost anyone listening to this will recognize this in their own lives, loyalty is about getting maximum value from the consumer from a business point of view, how we can get a little bit more lifetime value for our cost of acquisition. And yet if loyalty is meant to drive behaviors from consumers to be more loyal, then why is it the consumer has to do all the work? And there's something backwards about that. So several things, Meed is a culmination of several independent events, all merged together in a eureka moment, which actually genuinely did happen in the shower. The first is, in fact, I'm sitting in Singapore right now in a hotel room. As you know, we've just done demo day for Accelerating Asia. So in Singapore a few years ago, I was walking down Orchard Road and I suddenly realized, damn, I forgot to pack a cap. Now you can imagine in somewhere like Singapore, a cap is a very important accessory for me. And so I popped into Adidas to buy one. Buying the cap took a minute, but they convinced me to join their loyalty program. And they said it was regional, so living in Hong Kong, but being in Singapore would work. That took 20 minutes because trying to download an app in crappy Wi-Fi and trying to log in and register took several attempts. I did actually eventually do it. But anyway, bank that. It was just an experience. And I thought, well, why do they do that? How does that help? Another time I walked into Muji in Hong Kong and was buying, which I do about twice a year at most. And I was buying something at the counter and they said, oh, do you have our app? And I seem to remember I had installed it. But when I went to search my phone, I realized that wasn't on the current phone. It was a previous phone and I hadn't reinstalled. You know, when you buy a new phone and you see all the apps in you and you go, no. Well, it was one of those. And I couldn't be bothered to faff around, so I walked away. And then separately, walking to, maybe this was back in my subconscious, it certainly wasn't a conscious effort, but walking into coffee shops, me and giving them a printed stamp card and thinking to myself, why are these still a thing? You know, because I got a phone and obviously the first traces of memberships or cards going in the earliest days of the Apple and Google Wallet, which in the past 3 years has really accelerated as a set of rails that you can build some sort of platform on. All these things just basically, you know, and one day I actually found a printed stamp card stuck to the side of a drum the drum of my washing machine. All these individual unrelated events one day swirled around in my brain and I suddenly thought, hang on, I'm in technology. There's a way we can do this. And from there, the seeds of Meed was born. And then following that was a lot of research. And I found one particular statistic that was arrived at by two entirely independent organizations, one being Capgemini, the other being the Forbes business unit. A lot of us go to Forbes for our sort of stats and backup data for decks and stuff. And they both gave this same number, 54%. And that 54% is the number of digital loyalty memberships that go dormant, usually in quite short order. And the reason for that, which is actually quite intuitive, but, you know, looked at the data to back it up, consumers are asked to join all these individual things. And now and they can't manage them. Your hotel and your favorite airline, put those aside. Those are different. Those have different motivations. But in so many other things, you walk into a little shop and they've got themselves either maybe they're using one of our competitors who do some forms of digital loyalty, or they've got a white label app, and you get to the point that walking into any shop and being gleefully told by the shop assistant, would you like to join our loyalty program? Starts to feel like you being told your flight's cancelled at check-in. And so, I was thinking, how can we solve this problem? And when you delve deep into what the loyalty industry actually is, the truth is, and it's a $30 billion industry globally, servicing a $30 trillion retail industry globally. And yet they are basically selling software, either at web level access or installed access to retailers. And the consumer has to give over their entire life history just to get a free coffee to each and every one. I don't think there's some things you just don't need to know. And as a result, consumers, one, they can't manage it. That's enough for a drop off. And two, I think a combination of consumer dislike and also the governments of the world and their privacy policies, their dislike too, of the amount of data that's extracted from humans for unclear use. Basically, that's a huge problem. And I think, 54% loyalty failure, if you want to work that out, if you assume 10 to 15% of a successful loyalty program could generate maybe 10 to 15% of upsell for a given cost of acquisition, and you work through the numbers, you work out that there's somewhere between an 800 billion and $1.7 trillion hole in global retail. And so the question that pondered through my head was, what would a company that could solve that problem be worth? And that's when I realized that the problem that Meed could solve, the idea of looking at loyalty and customer engagement from a consumer lens rather than a selling software to retailer lens, could actually create something quite significant. And fast forward, here we are.
All right. I mean, I really like some of the examples that you've given because they really resonate with pretty much anybody who's been trying to leverage the loyalty app that they've signed up to. I mean, I've literally gone to Marina Bay Sands where it pops up on your screen that you've got this Marina Bay Sands rewards thing. So you can use it at any of the shops. And I've gone in and literally sat there at the checkout trying to log into the actual app. And there's a queue of people building up and you're like, oh, I'll try this. And oh, no, that doesn't work. And in the end, I've just given up on some of these things. I mean, literally every shop that I go to now, they'll ask you, are you a member? Here in Singapore, it's like a really common thing. Are you a member? And when you say no, they should, by default, go, oh, would you like to join? But they know how long it's going to take. And they go, oh, okay. And they'll just move on. So the store has lost out on capturing their client data because signing someone up takes really long time. And your staff at the check-in counter are not going to wait 20 minutes and have a queue build up while somebody's signing up. It's insane. So yeah, I mean, I've literally had those personal experiences, and I guarantee that there are people out there that are watching this and going, yeah, been there, done that. And the thing is in previous roles that I've had, one of the things is they're all about the data that you're able to capture for the retailer. What does this person like? What type of shopping habits do they have? Is there something that I can entice them back in? What's their frequency? All of that kind of stuff. Adnia was a fantastic company that was able to do something like that, but even they were struggling with being able to identify where people were going and what they were doing. And here I've tried out your app, and it literally just sits in the wallet, so you just scan and you're done. So yeah, I think that there's something very unique and brilliant about the way you've implemented this, because it's one of those moments where when we met yesterday, the guy that we were with, he goes, yeah, I hear this, and you just think, why didn't I think of this? And it's one of those moments where you just have a real coming together moment where you realize that this is such an obvious problem that can be solved, and you've gone ahead and done that. And just talk through the type of traction that you've had, because you've not been massive on marketing either, but tell me a little bit about where your traction has come from.
Thank you. I will do that. I just want to pick up on one thing you just said, because it's actually, there's a couple of things to unpack in there that's really important. Two things. One of the things we discovered as we researched why loyalty fails, another sub point is the experience of onboarding or executing in the moment. And it's pushed too forward towards the consumer. So one of the side effects of Meed is effectively because you only join Meed once and then you add loyalty memberships to your wallet rather than you joining each individual. So it's a structural change because it's from the consumer lens. So with us joining a loyalty program, once you're on Meed, and you experienced this yesterday when I showed you, you can tap an NFC chip and 5 seconds later, you've got a second pass in your Apple or Google wallet. So the most important thing is friction. The other thing you talked on was about customer data. And one of the other things that we don't talk about this much at this stage because it's still a sort of prototype concept. But we're trying to push towards this concept of anonymized loyalty. You don't need an email address, doesn't tell you whether someone likes red or white wine. Their behavior does. And is it necessary to know the email address to access the behavior? So that's one of the other things about Meed that we're trying to do, because consumers want to be rewarded for their behavior. That's, loyalty is a form of behavior modification. You provide an incentive to behave in a certain way, exactly the same way as you work for a company. And the bonus structure is an incentive to behave a certain way. It's exactly the same psychology. So just a couple of things there that you actually touched on that are very central to me. In terms of our traction, obviously, we have just come into Accelerating Asia, which for our bootstrap effort, so the past sort of 2.5, 3 years, is our first institutional check. So we have the outcomes that you'd expect from a bootstrap company, particularly doing something on this scale. And every now and again, I wake up and go, maybe you could have picked an easier problem, Phil, because this, what we're trying to do is on an immense scale and very global. We didn't have the money to go outbound. We didn't have the money to go out and turn up to events and have, retail events where 1,000 retailers, independent shop owners, and sign them all up. We did have the resources to focus on inbound from the very beginning. And my goals, obviously, I run a business. I want the business to break even. And we've kept things very small and tight, that it doesn't take much to get there. But in lieu of that, what were the things I wanted to set and achieve? One, I wanted to set out and achieve that people would buy and pay for the cold start product, because we are a marketplace in pure terminology. Would people buy our cold start product, which effectively want to end the printed stamp card? And tick, the answer's been yes. Yeah. And would people anywhere in the world, do we actually have a product that can be and used anywhere in the world and customers feel solves their problems? Yeah, I've got people paying in Peru, Barbados, the UK, the Philippines, Hong Kong, Singapore, to name a few. So yes, we've achieved that. So on pure inbound alone, we're getting close to, I think, 1,000 inbound accounts. From a total now of 91 countries. A lot of those date back to earlier days. And so what we've been learning, we've learned the top of the funnel is very easy. And at the end of the funnel where people pay, I've got the Instagram messages. God, we love this. This is awesome. So our goal, this is the startup journey in a nutshell. And the best problem to have is that product funnel portion from onboarding to paid and navigating that and making sure most people succeed. We have earlier accounts that fell off because we had holes in our UI, etc. So we've been learning and iterating as we go along. And now we have a product. We have an onboarding process that basically has a near 100% success rate in terms of an active program. And now with that and with being Accelerating Asia, one of the things about being an accelerator is it becomes time to accelerate. And so that's exactly what we've been doing. We've now started investing money in outbound, focusing actually on the Philippines and the UK, where we had the highest inbound sort of hotspots. That was fate that said where they were, because inbound, you don't control who sees the message.
Yeah.
So, and we're starting to see an acceleration in signups. So we're monitoring those. We reach out to everybody. We make sure we help them. And in the past, although this on the massive numbers, June on May was like a 60% jump in revenue. July on June is just short of 50% jump on revenue. And a lot of this is converting people who were already on the platform and using it. Because our pricing mechanism is free until 50 members. Some people get to 50 members in less than a day. Some people take a while, because we're asking people who were using a printed stamp card to now use a thing online. And even though we've made it stupid simple, that's still a massive leap. So I think, giving people time. So the traction is early, but we've proven that people across the world will pay for it, and not just English markets. And that our onboarding now is close to 100% success. And that's when you feel safe to actually invest in outbound and start trying to drive better incomes, which is exactly the stage we're at now.
Yeah. I mean, this is really interesting, because when you mention things like you've got traction in the Philippines and you've got traction in the UK, and then you've got customers in Peru, like, this just tells me that this is a problem that people are like literally Googling and saying, hey, I've got this, I'm running my shop, I want a loyalty program, what's a great way to do this online? And they're finding you just by doing that quick Google search.
Well, we focused on that. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
When I said what we had the resources to do inbound, what that actually means is while we were going through 2 years of iterating, this is loyalty sounds simple. It's actually a complex problem. It has multiple pieces. You've got your membership tier, your membership wheel. You've got what the actual program is, and we're focusing on stamp cards. But loyalty has many mechanics. We just focus on stamp cards because to kill the printed stamp card is a reasonable and stateable position to take to kick a product off. So while we were going through that, while we were iterating, while we were working with early customers, including some early paid customers, and having to, that platform's been reinvented about 2-3 times already, as we've learned how to solve their problems. In the background, we were constantly working on content marketing. Before I was a founder, my path to this was on the marketing side. So, content marketing is on my speciality. I've been doing it for 15 years, inbound marketing, basically. So that basically is probably the main reason we've managed to achieve what we've achieved. Focused on content. Very early started focusing on LLM focused content because we want, half our paid customers came through ChatGPT. And our citation rates in ChatGPT are still quite low, around 7-8%, but they were 1%. So we've 5-6x'd them. And, our sort of biggest search competition would be stampme.com, and their citation rates around 50-60%. So we have a target now. We can aim for something. We know that's achievable. So I think no matter what you do, whether we're talking about referrer and reseller markets, which I think will be our big growth path, inbound is this sort of solid foundation. And the great thing about inbound is it's a very reliable indicator of product market fit. Because that's people find you and go, yeah, that solves my problem, because they're actually looking at that moment to solve the problem. It doesn't drive $1 billion business, not for a long time, because you need to go outbound and create a market, create brand awareness, which we're starting to do. But yeah, so inbound, we even while we were very prototypical in the platform we had, we were already building out the blog at meedloyalty.com. I think there's some 600 articles up there now.
Wow. Okay.
So that's an average of 2 a day for 2 years. So a lot of effort in that.
Yeah, you've been putting a lot of background effort in to actually get that. But I mean, you've talked about having customers in Africa and in the Middle East, and
Angie's nails in Mozambique.
I mean, I'd love to get Angie on and actually ask her house. Yeah, we should try and track her down. And so if anybody's watching and they know Angie's nails in Mozambique,
I'll send her a note. I'll send her a note. I have her DM on Instagram.
Yeah, no, that would be just so cool to actually work out. Actually, why did you come across this? Because that's the other thing. We immediately think that this is just a stamp card for coffee shops, but your approach and in your traction is coming from some really like off the wall kind of clusters of clientele. I mean, just give us a quick overview of some of the clusters that you're seeing.
Okay, so again, for people watching, you think, why is Phil scattered all over the place? This is inbound. This is the bit I can't control. What we're doing outbound is very, very focused. I just want to say that first. But yeah, I mean, obviously, so Angie's Nails, in fact, we've had a huge amount of traction across the world with salons, beauty, so not so much hair, but beauty, tanning salons in the UK. Probably my biggest cluster of actual incoming cash where people have slapped down their credit card without ever talking to us. That's the other thing. We do not require people to scale. People onboard themselves. They decide to pay themselves without talking to us, which I think is a very important, powerful position to be in, because that makes scaling this business a different matter. But yeah, tanning salons in the UK is my favorite. I know them all. I talk to them all. They're all lovely people. These are owner operators. This is who I serve. The people who undo their own padlocks at 6 or 7 a.m. in the morning. Which is basically half of all retail businesses on earth, and a very underserved opportunity. Square thought the same thing. Indie and SMB retail is the thing. Everyone said, why? Little. No, look at them now. So there's a massive market to serve. But Angie, so we've got the salon type stuff. We've got coffee shops. I thought coffee shops would be the number one. That was going to be my go-to market. It's actually the second biggest. Salons and various forms of salons are the number one. I've got farm shops. I've got a farm shop in Wisconsin.
Wow.
Basically, you get stamps for buying eggs. But this is actually what makes this really, really rewarding. I'll tell you something. I think I mentioned this when we were having coffee yesterday. There's no joy. There may be business opportunity, but there's no joy in selling more functionality to enterprises. You may get joy out of the revenue possibilities, but you don't get a real human response. I have people from someone who just basically runs their own nail thing out of their home, has 30 customers, to the farm shops, they're selling their eggs, to people running tanning salons, maybe have 600, 700, 800 members, indie operated coffee shops in the Philippines. These are the grafters of the world, and there is great joy in actually making a tool that not only helps them, but then they send you messages that they tell you, I love this. And you have no idea the psychological impact it has on the little guy when they see that they can have their logo next to their customers' credit cards on their Apple or Google wallets. I can do that. I thought that only big companies can do that, and they can do that too. And it has had quite a profound effect. One final little anecdote on that question, and I know you know about this because we talked about it before, but here in Singapore, I went to see one of my customers, Ken. Ken runs Cha Rei Rei in Raffles Place and also Doko Donburi in International Plaza. Quick plug, fantastic rice bowls, eat. I sat down with him for half an hour after the lunch rush, and he just looked at me and said, I love Meed, it's fantastic. There's nothing like this. Nothing so easy to set up. Nothing so easy for customers to join. The customers love it, and I actually felt a bit emotional, because you sit there and you make something, and then you go and talk to someone we all would understand as a true entrepreneur. The padlock guy at 6 a.m. running his basement food. International Plaza's ground floor. But these are the people who put hard shifts in, and you made something that makes a difference for them. That's what makes it worth getting out of bed in the morning.
I mean, and you mentioned this earlier, like you've got clusters in the Philippines, and and a lot of these are literally like mom and pop shops or
Yeah.
people who have literally just, they're grafting every day, and this is something that really moves the needle for them. You know, like
Yes.
I mean, at the demo day, we had people who were from SFDC and large organizations, and they win deals, and it's typically just doing the B2B of big enterprise, and it can just be soul destroying. But here you've done something where it really moves the needle for them. It does make a change in terms of the revenue impact that they have is and can be life changing. So I really like the idea, and just touching on the Philippines bit. I mean, the Filipinos, once they're very loyal with something, it spreads like wildfire as well. So when I heard that that was one of your clusters, I mean, you just have to look at things like Friendster back in the day when we were.
You're giving away our age now.
Yeah,
Friendster.
I know.
Oh my God.
Friendster. But it was just massive in the Philippines. And I remember being sat somewhere in Belgium and somebody saying, "Hey, connect with me on Friendster." And I'm like, "What is this?" And then found out that it happened to be everybody who was Filipino that I knew was on this one platform, and they weren't using, I think it was like the equivalent of Facebook at the time. So they had their own equivalent. And I think this is where it's going to spread like wildfire in terms of word of mouth and people who are also reversely loyal.
I think, yeah, there's a couple of points there to where we are so far. The first one is, yeah, something like Meed is perfect for the Philippines. It's absolutely perfect for the Philippines. And, you know, but one of our challenges, of course, is we have a global product, but different markets sit at different price points. So one of the challenges is that the pricing for Meed, which is basically once you go paid, it's $59 US, and that includes 2 locations, because locations are our chargeable unit, because that's what we track where people join, earn, redeem.
Yeah.
But that's for Singapore, the UK, Hong Kong, US. That's bang in the middle. That's a good value for money number for what this thing does, and particularly some of the clever advanced stuff it does. But for something like the Philippines, is out of step. You know, the right price point's around $35. So one of the challenges, and we're a small company. You know, we're effectively a bootstrap. I can't do massive amounts of technical development. We have to make very, very clean opportunity costs decisions about what we do next. But what is becoming very clear is that I want to be able to offer Meed in the Philippines at a price point that makes sense for that market. And that gets into complex stuff such as IP detection and things like that. But we are looking at that now. We've been doing Stripe coupons through the back door. But obviously differentiated pricing is a perfectly reasonable tactic, but it gets into a complex area. We are looking at that. I don't remember what the second thing was. The other thing is, for this type of market, one of the other challenges for Meed is we have to think of ourselves almost like a consumer product. This isn't like enterprises where you can walk up and say, "I've built this bare shell of a thing. Do you want to do a trial and maybe write me an LOI that I can show investors that you might buy it if it works?"
Yeah.
These people use Meed, they're hands off, they don't talk to us. The whole point of Meed is to make it an off-the-shelf product that's usable out the box without interference. Otherwise, it simply couldn't scale. And then they slap their credit card. If they like it, they slap their credit card down, and we find out after the fact. That is a very consumer product approach. Therefore, you can't have a half-assed brand. You can't have a half-finished product. That's why it's taken us a long time to get where we are, because the 2 years we've spent before getting into accelerating Asia, whereas if we were selling something to enterprise, you'd think it's to be a lot way further. We've had to bootstrap iterating a consumer product until the consumer accepted it. And that's just a long, hard process. So we can't skimp on the brand. We can't skimp on how the digital footprint looks to the outside world. So that adds that extra level of difficulty to what we're doing. But finally, we've managed to get to the point now where onboarding is almost successful. So there's a couple of things that came from what you said.
Yeah. No, I really like that. Before we just talk about the retailers in a little bit more depth, let's just I just wanted to play the video that you shared with me of of one of your retailers here in
Oh, this is
Singapore.
Ken in Singapore, who I talked about.
That's right. Yeah, let's just quickly cue his video.
Hi, I'm Ken, the owner of Toko Donburi and Charara. We love Meed. Meed has helped us to form a better relationship with our customers by actually bringing us together in the form of stamps as well as loyalty points.
All right. So
I just want everyone to know that his family was released unharmed after we shot that video.
I mean, it's just great though. So now that I've seen that, I'm gonna pop down and have a look as well. That's over at International Plaza, is that right?
That was shot at Charere. I say Charere. He says Charara. So that's a Korean rice bowl place, Korean barbecue and rice bowl place in the basement of Raffles Place.
Okay.
And then his other one, Doko Donburi, is on the ground floor of International Plaza.
God, right. Okay. Yeah. Cool. Okay. So, I mean, this is great. And this kind of leads into, the adoption for consumers is actually really easy. But what's holding back retailers in terms of, in terms of a consumer experience for them? Is there anything that's really holding them back?
From adopting Meed?
Yeah.
I think this is the discovery that we've been on. This is where I would say honestly, given to say I don't have all the answers for the marketing channels. We've obviously built the inbound portion, and we have found when people find us, the signups are very, very successful, and they go on the path to paid. And particularly now, in the early days, people would run into problems with the UI, and we would just constantly iterate until we fixed it, and which we're pretty 95% of the way there. Then we get into the outbound, which is, we're obviously not going to have the same sort of success rate. So we're now doing a lot of boosting and pushing across social. Instagram is Meed's primary hunting ground.
Okay.
And so a lot of effort followed by, although Facebook is really catching up in terms of engagement. LinkedIn is not a place where we're going to go and find our customers, for example.
Yeah.
So we're experimenting with different types of content, different messages, different verticals. Or in the early days, we did a lot of geographical testing to find out who responded to what where. Now we're very, very focused on the UK and the Philippines because we've already got stronger footholds there, and we can expand on that. We have things like the referral thing. Paid customers can refer other customers. When they become paid, everybody gets a discount or a benefit. But we're also, I think the area where we're putting the most growth into now is in partnerships and the referrer mechanism. Without throwing huge resources at it, as I've mentioned before, you have to think of Meed as a consumer brand almost.
Yeah.
And right now, retailers are as we get retailers, they're very inefficient to hit. Very inefficient marketing to hit them. But all those independent or small agency marketers, designers, social media managers, all those people who do a lot of the stuff for our ICPs, they're much easier to reach. And so the next thing that we're doing is basically looking at building our partner network, because we have a partner system, we have a referral fee sharing system, so someone can take Meed, add it as a feather, as an arrow to their quiver for everything they do for their customers, and they basically get an ongoing share of the revenue, up to 40%, which for the lifetime of all three parties, the referrer, us, and the retailer. And that's great because one, it's a completely predictable cost of acquisition. The other thing is it's a cost of acquisition paid after the revenue comes in. So it's like, yes, that's how we want to do things. And then the other thing is we have another front end on Meed called Meed Events, and which is up and running now. We just haven't put time into it because of resource constraints. And for example, say someone's running a food festival, all the vendors basically can give people stamps when they buy stuff, and then they go and earn rewards from the organizer table. When the rewards, though, then are a sponsorship opportunity. Effectively, the vendors get a way to say, hey, buy more, get more stamps. The customers get to want to spend more because they get rewards as they fill the stamp card up. Lots of rewards on the journey, and the organizer basically gets this wonderful heat map of economic activity in the venue. But where this is really cool is the vendors are mostly likely Meed customers down the line, so we get paid to create a loyalty system that drives up purchasing at an event. I call it negative CAC marketing. And then the vendors, are potential customers that we can follow up with. But we have that system. We did it for French Gourmet, which is a major event in Hong Kong. But we haven't done that yet. But to get back to your question, the real trick with Meed and where we're focusing now and what we're going to do with the money that the current round we're raising that's been led by Accelerating Asia. The important thing to Meed is what we call the customer flip. To get things off the ground, we have to sell features to retailers. Use Meed, get rid of the printed stamp card, etc. But at some point in time, when you're deep enough in a constrained geographical area, you have enough consumers that consumers are going, hang on a minute, Meed, and everything's in one place. And you've seen what the wallet looks like. It's like, that stamp card's there, and then underneath that stamp card, everything's behind one Face ID. I like this. And we shift to what we call the demand side. Meed is effectively converting supply side into demand side. The consumers go, hang on a minute, you got a choice. You want Meed to join? Use Meed. Don't use this printed stamp card because everyone else is on Meed. And that's what we want to get to. And that's where the marketplace comes into effect. And we go from levering B to cold start it to C's being the draw. And the retailer doesn't use Meed because of the features. They use it because that's where the consumers already are. And that then gives us sort of the Series A repeatable model that you can pick up and drop and pick up and drop, location, city by city, country by country, etc.
Okay. I mean, and just in terms of your traction as well, I mean, it's proven that the demand is universal from retailers, and yeah, you're absolutely right. When consumers start to see this as being a solution for them that gives them the rewards that they actually want, it becomes a bit of a no-brainer for them to keep on mentioning it, right? And the other thing that you kind of indicated a little bit, but like when you're near to the shop, it just pops up a bit like at Marina Bay Sands. If you're in Marina Bay Sands, the card pops up. It's constantly on the front of your phone. And here you've got like your ability to actually say, well, if you're near a particular shop, that comes to the forefront of your phone.
Yes, it does.
Well. Yeah,
it does. In fact, I think you scanned my Cha Ray Ray card, so you became a member of Cha. When you get near Raffles Plaza, I promise you it'll pop up on your screen.
Cool. I'm going to do it.
That is a rail offered by both Apple and Google Wallet. It's done slightly differently with each one, but yes, when you get within a certain, I think about 250 meters we chose, it pops up. And that's really, really important. Obviously, we didn't invent Apple and Google Wallet, but they've got to the point now, and obviously Apple released a lot of new features for Apple Wallet. Meed provides an application layer that makes Apple and Google Wallet for everybody. You as an independent person can't just create something on Apple Wallet. There has to be an application layer that then generates that. And we provide that. We provide that, Marina Square or Marina, there's so many of them, but the one you're talking about, that's a big enterprise operation. That's a big enterprise operation. But now with Meed, for just a few tens of dollars a month, you can get your logo into the Apple Pass rails. Customers, almost near universal adoption by customers. It's already there. Nothing new to install. I think that's a huge value proposition. Our challenge is getting better at communicating that you can do that now, and you can literally do it in 5 minutes.
Yeah. And the best thing is, and what I've always seen with people who are reluctant to adopt something is, oh, the cost is too much. But here you've done the equivalent of Zoom, where you've given something for free. And
Yes.
I feel this pain from a company where I worked at, which was Blue Jeans, and they were being eaten alive by Zoom, where they were offering free video calls for 45 minutes. And here you are, you've got free loyalty app for the first 50 customers. And I think that's it's removing the friction of behavior. The behavior is, I'm used to paying my printer to print out some cards and I hand them out like confetti. Here I am now just like enabling this, and people just quickly connect in and we're done. And I don't need to worry about it. And the only time you need to worry about it is when you've got a critical mass of customers anyway, which is not a problem to have. It's a great problem to have.
No.
Yeah.
The pricing model, I think, is one of the smartest things we did. Traditionally in this business, hey, we've got a product. Some people just say you've got to pay for it now. And some people, you get 14-day or maybe a 30-day trial. Here's what we learned. We learned that some people are technically savvy, like our friend's Neon Tanning in Hull. She had this worked out in an hour. Some people take longer. Our coffee chain of 3 shops in Peru, now paying us basically $100 a month. They actually signed up in September, and then they started using it in February. And what I discovered was you cannot underestimate the psychological leap it is for someone who's opening their padlock at 6 a.m. I do use that phrase a lot.
Yeah.
Going from calling their printer once a month for more cards to actually managing something online, in an interface.
Yeah.
It's a bigger leap than people give it credit for. And I realized that the free trial actually would just cost us customers. The Neon Tanning in Hull, who went paid in 22 hours because she just blasted it across Instagram. All her customers have said, "Why do we have printed stamp cards?" Said, "You said it. We listened. Scan this." And she had 50 members in 21 hours. She was upgraded in 22. Wow. She's now nearly 1,000. She gets it. You can't have too many members because of push notifications. You can get in their phones. Then we have Disala in Lima. They took 5 months. But, they signed up for it. They knew it was a good idea, but they're running a coffee shop. They're busy. And then eventually she sat down, she got to grips with it and said, light bulb. If I had a forced free trial period, I would have lost that customer. And if I have a forced free trial, I would have given away for Neon, I would have given away the product for 2 weeks free. But if someone in their own time, whether it takes a day or a month or 3 months, and obviously we need to use communication methods to shorten that time. That's a product funnel issue. Yeah. But if if someone is using it and they get to 50 members, that means they are using it. That means it's ingrained. And upgrading becomes a bit of a no-brainer. So it's a very brave pricing policy because it takes away a time limit. But it's the one that the great thing about it is it really does cut down on churn, because if you're not forcing someone to put their credit card down on an arbitrary date and they do it in their own time, the chances of churn are a lot reduced. To wit, activated users who pay on Meed, our number of cancellations is exactly, and this goes back nearly 2 years, 0.
Wow. I mean, and this is like the holy grail.
Touch wood. I got to touch wood when I say that.
Yeah, I know. But it is literally the holy grail for any kind of SaaS provider to have 0 churn. And
I mean,
you're right.
I'm not naive. That won't last forever.
Yeah.
It won't last forever. But, business might go out. Someone might go out of business. There's things you can't do.
Yeah. But the reality is that once you've got 50 customers, you're impacting 50 users if you decide to switch out to something else. So it's a really good thing. You're actually working with consumer behavior as well. People don't like change. If it works, and it's friction free. And as soon as you introduce change, it really grates people and it impacts the consumer behavior. So I like what you've done. I've liked the way that you've done that, and it's just all the components in there: the wallet feature, the critical mass that you've got, and the fact that it applies to not just coffee shops, which is where we would typically think.
You'd be surprised who use printed stamp cards. You really would. I mean, your friend yesterday was talking about the spa place, and he gets a stamp every time he goes for a spa session.
Yeah, no, it's insane. I mean, you're right, and the amount of times I've been to places where I'm like, oh, I'll come here again, and they gave me a card, and I left it at home because I don't like carrying cards. I mean,
but you never don't like carrying your phone. That's the whole point. You know, phones usually, this isn't 100%. Usually phones don't end up being trodden in a back alley. Usually phones don't end up stuck to the drum of a washing machine. And usually phones don't get left in the bottom of a kitchen drawer. They're with you. Printed stamp cards end up with all of those things and more. So even now, at this early stage, to have a viable reason by which people can move from the printed stamp card to digital, no matter how small a business they operate. That alone, I think, is a unicorn level company, let alone the crazy stuff we have planned for later down the line. But you talked about people leaving, and that just prompted one thought, and I think is an important about the bigger vision. Obviously, we've talked about creating this marketplace effect, consumers being the draw rather than features. Now, if you extrapolate that out to scale, what we actually have is we have the consumer's eye or consumer lens on the day. Retailers, all they know is their slice of a consumer's day between they walk in the shop and when they walk out. They don't know what happened afterwards, and they don't know what happened before, but we do. You know, I see the consumer go to the gym, then they go to the coffee shop, then they go for where they have lunch, takeaway. Now, of course, I anonymize this data because, like, laws. But the ability to that, and Meed as one platform is therefore an acquisition tool as well. You know, I want to sell red wine. Well, like Facebook, I right now within 100-mile geography, I've got 22,000 people who probably like to buy a bottle of red wine. I can get that voucher into their timeline, whether they're members or not. But the other thing is then prediction. Imagine, someone wants to know, consumers who go to the gym in the morning and then they come out and find it's raining, what do they tend to do next? Well, if I know how people move from place to place where they spend money, because Meed's injected into the world at scale, and I have access to outside data like weather, imagine the sort of things we can predict. So that's where we're really going, where all the consumers, and that includes social layers, grouping, gifting, sharing, and all the businesses and their ability to cooperate and link together, greater value, same footfall, all this sort of network effects no one's even thought of in loyalty before, creates what I call the Hotel California platform, where excuse me, where you can leave, but it's very hard because you can't take that set of network effects with you. Your options, if you leave Meed, is just to have a piece of software where you have a list of all your customers and you send them annoying emails. And that's really, that's where Meed gets really exciting, is at scale. We become infrastructure. Meed becomes infrastructure rather than just a piece of online software that retailers use.
Yeah. I mean, and it's literally everybody that I met after demo day, they were talking about how you have so much ability to really take the market. I mean, there's so many people that have been talking about how they resonate with this particular problem, both in terms of running their own business or even as a consumer. So the problem statement that you're addressing is valid on both sides. Like, how do I know what my customers want? How do I bring them back to my store? And then the other one is, I want to be rewarded for coming back to this shop, but it really irks me that I left the card at home and I've spent something, but I've got no reward for it. I'll choose to ignore it this time round and keep on walking to the other shop. So you kind of.
Sorry, I was going to say from the retailer, because you just hit a really important point there. From a retailer's point of view, there's just two things. One, the old printed stamp card, I think many people can either relate or very easily imagine the almost humiliation of walking into a shop and saying, I had a stamp card with 7 out of 10 stamps and I can't find it. Shops have to deal with the discomfort of that. But the other thing is about rewards. An unredeemed reward is a failure. Now, some people will say strange things like, oh, but if they earned the reward but they didn't redeem it, that means I didn't have that hit on my inventory. I'm going, no, you missed a customer acquisition point, which generates even more loyalty. The psychological impact of receiving something as gratitude for a past relationship has massive impact on how people relate somewhere. So you may have saved a bit of inventory, but you lost a connection of love with the customer that spends money with you. So that's a massive failure. And so, one way of putting Meed is we solve why rewards go unredeemed for retailers. That's another way. That's a really important point. It's another way of putting what we actually offer in terms of the value proposition.
Yeah, I mean, and just to touch on that, I mean, we're over 50 minutes now, and I'm going to try and trim this down. But no, I mean, this is an experience that I actually had, because there are lots of retailers that will want to use the credit card loyalty, like, the credit cards will give points, or you can get a 20% discount if you use this particular card. The one thing that I've noticed, and when we were working specifically with a number of like large global banks headquartered in Hong Kong, naming nobody, they literally, when I spoke to their marketing team, they literally told me, with no embarrassment whatsoever, we make it hard for these guys to redeem their rewards because we don't want to spend that money. It's a success for us if they don't redeem it. And I just thought to myself, and this is why I don't have your credit card, because why would I? I mean, I've switched out from some cards just to get my cash back, and it's done automatically. Why? Because it's easier for me and I know what I'm getting in terms of value. Whereas, like, I've literally had a local Singapore bank, they gave me some points which I was able to redeem for vouchers. They literally print these like pieces of like paper that you get, and they send it to you in the post, and each one is technically worth $20. And I had a stack of them, and what they didn't tell you was that they expire within like 3 weeks of you getting them. So like literally when I tried to go and redeem them, they'd all expired. But I cancel the card because it's like, what's the point? I'm not even going to use that again.
It's very interesting you bring that up, because actually you can apply similar things to mechanics like Grab, who have their own point systems. That's their system. The reason they don't care, they actually don't want you to redeem, is because they're not the retailer. The retailer, it's not the retailer's loyalty. For the retailer, arguably, it's an acquisition channel, but it's not their loyalty program. And so the motivations are different. Grab, great system, and I talked to retailers in Singapore and a couple in Thailand, but mainly in Singapore where I've seen the most of it. Again, that's Grab system. It's not the retailers. The retailer, it's not the retailer's logo doesn't go into the customer's wallet because they use this or they use the credit card. So that's the big distinction. The credit cards offer all this stuff up, but it's not their inventory that's at stake. It's the retailers. So it's very different. And that's the other thing. A lot of people will bring up, what about credit card or these sort of universal point systems? If it's not the retailer's own program and it's not designed purely and only to cement the relationship between that retailer and their customers, that means it's someone else's stuff and it's not done for your benefit.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay. And you're currently raising as well.
Yes.
Where does that stand, and what you're looking for in terms of investors?
We're just shy of halfway through. It's led by Accelerating Asia Ventures. The purpose of the raise is to take the product that we have already built, and we're iterating in the background, but based on customers telling us that they love this and getting more people to use it more quickly, and also to start building out the partner network and to take advantage of a couple of things. One of the things we haven't mentioned is we've signed an agreement with partners in Bangladesh, also members of the cohort 13, to basically take Meed to Bangladesh. Our next stage, we've shown people will pay for it, and we've shown it has a global potential. The next thing is to show what happens when lots of people have it and the network effects. And Bangladesh is a very overlooked market for us to do that. So that's where we're going to prove that point. Then we take that and go worldwide. So we're doing an angel raise. So I'm looking for 1 or 2 more angels, particularly people who have an interest in this area, loyalty, retail, etc., who understand the customer problem and be intrigued by the problem. And then basically that gives us 6 months to go hard, and then we'll probably look at doing a second angel raise after that. And if we play our cards right, my goal is to skip seed stage funding, because I think within a year, as we don't need to scale headcount, within a year we can actually get this company to the point where it's self-sufficient financially, and then probably with a repeatable model that's proven, has the data to back it up, jump straight to a Series A and go straight for growth. So that's my crazy plan, and that's where we are at the moment.
Brilliant. Okay. Well, on that note, look, Phil, really appreciate you taking the time to actually speak to us about this and to share your experience as well. Absolutely love what you're building. Maybe what we can do is maybe in a year's time we can come back, or in 6 months' time, and see what your progress is and how.
I'll let you know which bridge I'm living under.
Don't say that. No, I mean, personally speaking, with the traction that you've got, I can see this flywheel just really spinning. It's spinning literally out of control. And it's one of those things that you just can't stop once it's moving.
You see the increase in pressure, and that's what we're raising money on. If I'm putting a rocket motor on the side of that flywheel, and I want to put fuel into that rocket, that's what we're raising for. Make it spin faster, and once we get that going, then I think everything takes off. I don't need money to build a product. I need money to take the product to market at an accelerated rate. And I think that's a really healthy position to be in.
All right, brilliant. Okay. And on that note, thank you for listening. And if you've got any questions, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. We're going to be doing more of these over the next few weeks, especially from the cohort 13 of Accelerating Asia. And hopefully we'll see you on the next show. All right. Thank you.
Thanks.